everybody. Love working on a snowy day because the dog doesn't bark. Oh, I was just saying the dog doesn't bark that much when it snows. I was wrong. She's barking at the snow. Today I want to show you how to quilt the May table runner that's called the Flower Patch. I think that's what we're going to call it. This is what it looks like in this colorway. Let's see if we can get that. Can't see what you're looking at. It's a rather long table runner. It's got one hibiscus flower. It has quilting in the 9-patch, quilting on the triangles, and it also has quilting in the corner. All the quilting is very custom. I'm doing this in pastel colors so the quilting shows up even more because I really like the quilting on it. Before I get started though, I want to show you that these are like, I'm doing a table runner of the month. And so let's just start real quick with January. I'll show them all to you. This is January. They're all custom quilted, so you make the table runner just like you make a normal table runner, piecing your blocks and everything. And then you go back over it, you make a quilt sandwich, and then you go back in and you quilt it. Let's see, I'm sorry, that was February. This is January. January's out on loan, so it was a little snowflakes. January, February. March was a shamrock. The table runner is also on loan right now, but this is a little wall hanging I made for my house. So you can see there's 3 applique designs, a hat, a leaf, and a clover with some flowers. And then there is very custom quilting designs around all the designs. April is Easter. That is now out. It just was released the other day. And this is a white rabbit. I do have a chocolate rabbit too. And here you have, I call it the Easter garden because you've got a bunny with the crocus flowers, with the Easter lily, with the tulips, and some different eggs. You do have one egg that is applique that's a little different than the other eggs. And then you got a set of 2. All of them have custom quilting around it. But what you guys are here today for is to see how the May table runner is quilted. Now, that quilt is on a point, so it's a little bit different to quilt. When we quilt it, we want to make sure we quilt it so that it is square, okay? Because the designs will go around. I mean, you could do it on point, but when you turn a square on point, it makes it a lot wider. It might not fit in your hoop. And also, you're going to have to rotate that design 45 degrees. So if you just keep everything square, it'll work out much better. So I'm going to start with the beautiful, beautiful 9-patch. It's called the Leaf Circle quilt design, and guys, this is like one of my favorite quilt designs of all time. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll talk about all the different ways to quilt, quilt all the different blocks. Also, I'm going to be using the baby lock, even though I have Bernina all over my shirt. I'm going to be using the baby lock because I have a huge monster, snap hoop monster. That's one of the magnetic hoops for this machine, and I wanted to use the magnetic hoops because I've had lots of people write to me and say, I would love to get a magnetic hoop. I don't know how to use it, so I'm going to be using that to show you how to use it, especially for Barbara in Germany. This is for you. Okay, so let's go over to the sewing machine. Alright, so I brought the design into my machine. I found the center of the design, and then I moved the needle so it's over that center point in that center block on the 9-patch. The 9-patch is the easiest to quilt, so you can go ahead and quilt all your 9 patches first. You'll notice though that I have turned my table runner at an angle so that my blocks are square within this hoop. Now when you use a snap hoop, you'll notice that there are all these grids or these rulers all the way around the hoop. And what I do is I use these lines to help me keep everything straight. So for example, down here I have the 13, and I just make sure that my seam is in the same place over on this side. If it's not, I just tug it so that it is. It's very easy to tug and pull, and just when you tug and pull, make sure you do not rip out your seams. That would be a bad thing. Now in the very back, I notice that this seam here is on a 9, and this one up here is like between the 8 and the 9. So I can also take that and just scooch that over so that it's more or less at the 9. They don't have to be perfect. They can be off a millimeter or two. It's not really going to affect anything. Now, I want to show you something really cool about this machine. This is something it's just a geeky thing, and I just love it. So, over here, I'm going to pick up the tripod gently, 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 gently. And, you know, just, there's this icon here called a projector. Sorry about all the barking. She's in a downstay now, right next to me. Oh. Okay, so there is this icon here called a projector, and you can project the image onto the screen. Now, you see over here there's a little box. I can move that box up so I can see the bottom portion of the design. Now look at this. This is just so cool. So I actually project the design onto the fabric so I can just check and see everywhere that that design is going to fall. It's just kind of like a verification. I mean, you can find the design easy enough in with the center, and that's what I did. But you can see now I can just kind of go around the whole design and just make sure it is in my 9-patch box. Just kind of a cool thing. I just wanted to show that to you. It's cool. Different machines do different things, and so it's just fun. Okay, so here we go. We're going to stitch the 9-patch. And you know it moved out of whack. It moved up because that's where the design starts. Isn't that just gorgeous? I love, love, love that design. Okay, now here is how, okay, so in my hoop is really big. Let me zoom out. You can see my hoop is really, really big, and bigger the better, I always say. So if I wanted to, I could bring up my next hibiscus design and put it right around here. But but if you don't have a big hoop, but you do have a magnetic hoop, here's what you do. You lift the top portion up, and you just hook it up over your machine like that, and then you can just scoot your fabric, and then you can bring your hoop back down, and it doesn't stick as much to the magnet when you do it that way. And then again, you just line everything up using your line. So here I have a 9, that's on a 9, like that. Back here 6.5. I could probably scoot it over a little bit here. Not much. And you just go around like that. In doing the hibiscus block, it's real important that you note where the orientation of the hibiscus and the design that goes around it. The design will have 2 leaves up at the top and one that curves off the stamen. The flower also needs to be orientated so that the stamen is going down. So I provided you with a picture of that in the pattern, so study that carefully, because as this table runner gets bigger and, you know, as you do one half, you're probably going to turn it around to do the other half, which is going to make the flower upside down or sideways. So you're going to have to rotate the design so that it is in the same orientation as it's supposed to be, so that everything stitches out correctly. So just be very mindful of that. So go ahead and bring the design into your machine and find the center of the machine, and then use your arrows to move the design around so that the needle is over your mark in your center. Now you'll notice, I don't know if you can see my needle or not in the video, but my needle is right here, and you can see it's not in center with the center of the flower. It's a little bit up and over. So you'll need to mark a little bit up and over on top of that embroidery thread. That's why I want you to use a water-soluble marker, because it will come out when it's washed or when you put water on it. Okay, so I want to show you something kind of cool too about this machine before I get started. So once you've got everything lined up, remember, you don't need a fancy machine. You just need a machine where you can find the center of the design in the machine and find the center of the design on the fabric. And you know, your positioning, if you have that kind of positioning, you're good. However, since I am on this really cool machine, I do want to take a second and show you how the scanner works, because it's so cool. You're going to love this. Okay, so moving the squeaky tripod, apologies up in advance. So there's this little button here called the scanner, and you just touch the scanner, or it's a camera, and what it's going to do is it's going to scan the fabric. So it says my needle is down, of course. Let's get that up. And then we can scan this fabric. And as you can see here, it's going to start scanning the fabric. It does 3 passes, so this is the first one. I should probably have the dog over here in a sit-stay so she doesn't bark at everything. When you're scanning, you'll want to keep your fingers out of the way, because if you scan your fingers, you get a nice blur all across your scanned image. So just keep your fingers out. Should start singing the Jeopardy song. Do 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 do. Okay, enough of me singing. Alright, now here's the cool part. It shows up on your screen. The design will be superimposed on the fabric, so you can see exactly how the design fits around your flower. And this is what I'm talking about. The stamen on the flower is going down. You've got 2 leaves up on top and 1 leaf on the bottom. So kind of memorize that design. Check your diagram in your pattern, in the printed pattern, before you start stitching this out. Okay, as soon as you got everything lined up, you can just go ahead and start stitching out your design. And that's quilting around the hibiscus. So go ahead and do all your hibiscus, do all your 9 patch, and then we'll meet up again with the triangles. Quilting the triangles is really easy. Just make sure you hoop the triangle so that this bottom portion right here is going vertical or up and down in your hoop. And then you just bring the design into your machine, find the center of the design in your machine, and then you're just going to use your positioning to move the needle so that it's over that blue dot you marked. The blue dot, you should have marked a blue dot from this point to the blue dot is 2 inches and 1/4, 2¼ inches. So just, I'm going to move my needle now. Oops, a little too far. Have a little laser light. I'm going to shine that on there so I get spot on. There you go. I can turn my laser off. My needle is right over the dot, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit the start button and stitch out the design. One really nice thing about the magnetic hoops and doing a border is you can just lift up the top, slide it down, lay the top portion back on, and you're ready to stitch the next triangle. Really goes fast. Now this is why we needed the backing fabric to be so much bigger, because when we do these corner triangles, it's easiest if you just turn the triangle so that the long portion of the bottom of the triangle is vertical in the hoop. Then you can just find the center of the design and mark 1.5 inches from the center of this block up. So find the center of this 9-patch block and then go 1.25 inches, or I'm sorry, 1.5 inches up. Put a little blue dot with your water-soluble marker and then move your design so that the needle is over that. If you didn't have enough backing fabric and you cut it too short, you're going to have to rotate the design, so we'll do that one in the next one. I also recommend putting a piece of tape at the top corner, because as this bar goes up and down, if you're holding it with your finger, the bar is going to come down on your finger and it hurts. So just put a little piece of tape up there to keep it the little triangle taut. Alright, so if you have to hoop it so that it's this way in the hoop, you're going to have to rotate your design 45-degree angle, at a 45-degree angle, and then move it over that center point. On a baby lock or a brother, I just recommend you put your projector or your scanner on and do it that way, but if you have a different brand machine, you're going to have to turn it 45 degrees. And that's how you do that. So go ahead and trim the table runner, bind it, and I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.